scholarships. It's through all of our scholars that his spirit lives on.
Taking the Hill with Patrick Murphy, next on MSNBC.
I'm surprised that anyone is surprised. I mean, Donald Sterling's reputation is such that one could say if you keep a vicious dog for a while and you know he's vicious, you can't be surprised when one day it bites someone.
That was Brian Gumbel today on Meet the Press, reacting to the controversy surrounding LA Clippers owner Donald Sterling and his racist remarks that he allegedly made. Meantime, the LA Clippers say they are investigating, and they've issued a statement saying in part, quote, "We have heard the tape on TMZ. We do not know if it is legitimate or it has been altered." It also says, quote, "Mr. Sterling is emphatic that what is reflected on that recording is not consistent with, nor does it reflect his views, beliefs, or feelings. It is the antithesis of who he is, what he believes, and how he has lived his life. He feels terrible that such sentiments are being attributed to him and apologizes to anyone who might have been hurt by them." Joining me now, Professor of Political Science at Hiram College, Jason Johnson, and political strategist and principal of Impact Strategies, Angela Rye. And with a welcome to you both, I'm sure this is going to be an interesting conversation. And I do want to talk about this in big picture context. However, before I do, what was your reaction when you saw and heard this story? And I should add, NBC has not authenticated this voice on the tape, but Jason, what did you think?
It almost made me chuckle because it just lays bare a level of racism that still exists in this country. I think it's hilarious that the Supreme Court says we don't need affirmative action this week, and then you hear this guy's voice. This mindset is still there. There are people in influence in this country who can hire, who can fire, who can accept you to school and not accept you to school, who have this attitude towards minorities. And so it didn't shock and surprise me, but I was sort of bemused at how naked and aggressive he was in his sort of twisted mindset.
Interesting. Angela, what about your initial reaction to this?
Sure. I think now my initial reaction is more about the statement. How repugnant. The statement is saying that it doesn't reflect his feelings or beliefs, but he never once says that it's not him. I know the tape hasn't been authenticated, but it's very frustrating to me. Being born and raised in Seattle, Washington, there are now two things in the western region of this country, Clive and Bundy and now this, that are so overtly racist. I thought that, you know, on the West Coast, things were just covertly racist. I had no idea that it was this blatant and this horrible.
So I guess big picture, Jason, on race, it so often seems the country takes a step forward over time, and then something like this surfaces, and then it's immediately two steps back. So what is your sense? What is the correct context for these remarks?
I think the correct context is to remember that he has every right to be a bigot. And I've never liked the idea of somebody losing their job or losing their team or anything else like that for being racist. You have a right to be a racist in this country. That's what makes America great. But you don't have the right to abuse your employees. You don't have a right to mistreat the people who work for you. And that's the pattern of behavior that we see here with Donald Sterling. And that's really the larger issue, that this guy has behaved inappropriately for years. He owns an NBA team. The NBA hasn't done anything, either David Stern or Adam Silver. And you can't have somebody like this continuing to behave inappropriately when they own a team. Owning an NBA team is a privilege, just like being a player. If you don't act appropriately, there should be consequences.
Angela, do we tend to project one person's apparent despicable comments onto a bigger part of society? I mean, big picture here. I'm not asking for you to give a representation of everybody, but in general, do you think African Americans now have reason to believe more whites perhaps think this way?
I don't think that this is about projection. I think in this instance, we have to look at the impact, right? This is a man who has his income in his favor in terms of his privilege, and he also has his skin color in favor of his privilege. And what has happened is he's projected this onto all of the players. There's a new tape now, with the longer extended tape, where he allegedly says that he provides them with food, with homes, and with cars. That projection is something that we can't control, but people in this country really need to think about what impact can we have to ensure that these types of remarks and thoughts don't run rampant in this country. I don't think that that's what makes America great. I think that is absolutely what the problem is historically and at present with this country. And what makes us great is the fact that we've surpassed it and gone around it, despite of everything that's tried to keep us back as a whole. I'm sorry, but this is very emotional. I just don't think that's what makes us great at all. And I feel so bad for the players that they have to play under these circumstances with this owner.
Interestingly, Jason, you're shaking your head.
Yeah, because look, one of the things that I think makes this country great is that even when people have unpopular beliefs, it's out there, it's exposed, and we have laws to deal with it. And that's why this has been a problem, because there haven't been effective uses of the law to deal with this person's behavior. Look, you can be a bigoted school teacher, you can be a bigoted cop, you can hate gay people, hate women, hate black, you can hate whoever you want.
But
the issue is, the law has not been used correctly.
Yes,
the law has not been used correctly, because when you're talking about what the NBA commissioner should have been doing, this guy, if he was engaging in the same behavior and he happened to be an NBA player, he would have been suspended already. The laws and the rules and the laws and the rules associated with being a member of the NBA, and the commissioner, either David Stern,
there's a distinction.
Those are rules and laws that you follow if you happen to be in the NBA and you happen to be an owner. Now, I know you may be frustrated about this, but we have to follow the rule of law here. And this individual, even if he happens to be a bigot, can still go and engage in this behavior. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you should actually have some sort of rules within the system to control somebody like this.
For failure.
Okay. No, and I appreciate that your laws versus rules, and you guys are debating that right now. But let me ask you, in terms of the timing of all this, how much can you attribute this to being a generational matter? If indeed these words have come from Sterling, this is a man, he's in his 80s. Now, age does not make it any less reprehensible what he's saying, but is there anything to that? A man in his 80s holding these kinds of beliefs? Angela, you first.
I'm sure there is, but Alex, we are in 2014, and these types of beliefs need to be checked, particularly when, again, they have impacts on larger cadres of people, including in this situation a basketball team, which is predominantly black.
Jason, to you real quick, generational perspective?
Yeah, I mean, he's old, but that doesn't have any excuse. There's plenty of old people who don't believe this way. And the twisted, racist way that he deals with his girlfriend and other people, you can find people who are 20 years old who believe that way. That mindset has always existed.
Okay, real quick, Jason, what do you think will be the fallout here and what should be the fallout here? Could be two different answers.
Yeah, it should be that Adam Silver has a serious conversation with him and says, look, you are negatively affecting the brand of the NBA. I would very seriously like you to consider stepping down from your position and not harming this league anymore.
Okay, and that's, you think, what should happen, what will happen?
I don't think anything's going to happen. I think Donald Sterling's just going to try and slip away, hope the Clippers get into the NBA Finals, and this will be forgotten. Unfortunately, the NBA hasn't prepared for this sort of situation, so they don't have much they can actually do.
All right, guys, that's a wrap. Good discussion, though. Jason Johnson, Angela Rye, thank you both so much.
Thank you.
And as I said, that's going to do it for me this Sunday. Thanks so much.